2022, it is time for me to bid farewell. Yep, you know what it is. You've seen the past two videos talking about my worst animes of 2022, the trashiest animes of 2022, and now we're going to wrap this year up with the 10 best animes of 2022 has to offer. I'll put them all in a playlist once this video is all said and done. But if you want to once again check out my best, worst, and trashiest animes to come out of 2021 and 2020, respectively. They are all in my YouTube playlist below, which I'm creating as of late. So, without further ado, let's get into the best animes of 2022. All right, and here we go. Once again, have the topsters, have the list. As always, let's start with the honorable mentions because we have a ton of them out of the way. Starting off with our first honorable mention being a trashy anime that I just covered not too long ago, Tomodachi Games. Again, what have I already said about Tomodachi Games that has been set away from my best trash anime of 2022? This thing is amazing. It is fun bad in every way, shape, and form. This came out around the same time period when Squid Games was also airing around this time. And the fact that it's under Okarutsu Noboru Studios kind of speaks volume to like, man, they actually made like a really strong, really well animated show that I think is going to be talked about for many years to come if the Squid Games hype has not died out in this case. But like I said, this is an honorable mention. Next, we have Sasaki and Miyano. Um, Honestly, a really underrated anime to come out of that year by Studio Dean. This show is absolutely gorgeous and amazing and super slice of life coded. That like again, if you're not in that slice of life genre, if you're not in the yaoi genre, especially given what the show's all about, I understand. But please give this a shot. This is honestly like a pretty underrated slice of life yaoi anime that's worth checking out. Even the movie itself is respectable in its own right. Next, we have the final installment of the Quintessential Quintuplets franchise with the movie that came out that year. Now, look, I'm going to get this one out of the way right now. Look, I understand there is some huge divide regarding this ending of Quintessential Quintuplets movie, and believe me, I very much knew how this movie was going to end because I have read the entire Quintessential Quintuplets manga prior, and I thought it was really good. I thought it was a respectable ending, and even the author had to come out and state why he had to make the ending the way it is. So the fact that Bilberry Animation Studios once again came out the gate swinging, and they did season two really well prior, I felt that this was a really good anime adaptation of the ending, and I thought that overall for me, as someone who has read this book, who has kept up with this franchise, I think it was a really good, solid ending all around. But like I said, I understand there are people that are super divided with this ending. Some saying that it wasn't unsatisfied and it wasn't conclusive enough, and it's understandable. But at the end of the day, I want to sound like I thought the ending was pretty good, and I'll say it like that. Next, we have the fourth season of Day of Life. This one was a pretty shocking one to come out of that year because not only is it under Geek Toy Studios, was at the time a new studio that I never heard of prior, but you have to understand that prior to the Day of Life franchise, season three was a horrible, disappointing, and just dog shit show. Even Maori's Judgment, which came out, I believe, that same a year or so later, by a different studio, mind you, was also pretty dog shit. But season four, I don't know what happened here, but Geek Toys was cooking. They actually finally revitalized the franchise to what it's supposed to be. And personally, I'm gonna just say right now, I think Day of Life season four was really strong of the franchise that it had to offer. And even the fifth season, which came out 2 years later, that actually wrapped up the franchise once and for all, I thought was a really good ending and really good moment of the franchise as a whole. Again, I understand that maybe daily life might not be for everyone's cup of tea now, given the subject matter and maybe given that its clear influences of being a bit of a ripoff left and right. But I think Daily Life season four, for with all that being said, was a really solid season, and that's what I'll say. Next, we have Komi-san Communicates season two. Season two of this one was really good, really solid. Again, the first season that came out prior to the year last year was really good. Again, pretty much if you love the first season of Komi-san and what it had to offer, you're definitely gonna love the second season of this show more or less. Moving on, though, we'll go into Classroom to Elite season two. This one was a long time waiting because, if I'm not mistaken, the first season came out pretty early on. Oh yeah, like 2017. So it was quite a while that we got a second season of this franchise. And boy howdy, the second season did not disappoint. This is without a doubt the darkest season to come out of the franchise. And I think that this was, I preferred the second season more over the third season, in my honest opinion. But either way, Classroom of the Elite really kind of kept the momentum going with the second season, and it showed a lot of pretty big moments that made the show really iconic as of late. All right, next we have Isekai Oji-san or Uncle from Another World. This one, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm gonna be real with you and say that this is without a doubt one of the most slept on isekais to come out of the past 5 years. It takes what you know about the isekai genre and honestly does a really cool and unique way of just showcasing, instead of a guy being isekai, getting powers overpowered and shit, it's kind of like the reverse now, where after this dude gets isekai, he wakes up back to his real world and then he just tells stories of what happened when he was isekai prior. And the show's really amazing. It is hilarious all the way all around. And despite the fact that the show had the final 3 episodes were delayed like crazy and kind of killed the momentum a little bit, this show was still one of the most unique isekai anime experiences you're going to want to check out. And finally, to wrap up my honorable mentions, we have Call of the Night, the first season to be exact. First season of Call of the Night was absolutely amazing, gorgeous. This, as I touted back then when I first watched the first season, this is like what would happen if lo-fi music essentially became an anime format. And while Call of the Night may have barely just not made to the 10th spot, honestly, this would be the 11th spot on my top 10 best animes of the year. Because, like I said, past this point, there are 10 shows that were just much better, much more impactful when it came out of 2022. So now, with that out of the way, let's get into the top 10 best animes of 2022. At the number 10 spot, we have a show that I've already talked about once again, kind of like what it is with Tomodachi Games. But this 10th spot is belonging to this show, if I can hopefully spell it properly. Oh, I cannot. Ah, oh, okay. I don't think if I can actually spell this. My bad. But the 10th spot basically goes to The Eminence and Shadows. This, once again, what can truly be said about Eminence and Shadows that I already haven't praised the hell out of from my best trash anime of 2022. The Eminence and Shadows is without a doubt one of the best, like, uh, realistically, one of the best, like, not only best trash animes of the year, but simultaneously, this show was, like, super impressive, taking, again, a lot of the tropes that we saw from a lot of these really bad animes that kind of go in this direction and waters it down. But this one just cranks the the giga chadness, the epicness, the Aurora farming esque at the time to a fucking 11. It honestly makes Sung Ji Woo shit his pants when he sees our main boy in The Eminence of Shadows. That's what I will say about that. But this show kicks ass. It was amazing. And the second season just keeps the momentum going all the way through. Once again, if you have not watched Eminence and Shadows, 100% give the show a watch. You're going to be laughing. You're going to be all in all with the animation. The dialogue is just like over the top bonkers, but yet it makes sense in the grander scheme of things. Eminence and Shadows is a 100% must watch. All right, but at our number 9 spot, we're going to move on to Spy Family. Spy Family, I think, like I said, should not have any introduction at this point. This show, when this came out back in 2022, this was one of many Cloverworks animes that they came out where, after a pretty dismal, disappointing 2021 with obviously with Horimiya that came out that previous year, Wonder Egg Priority, and of course Promise Season 2, Spy Family was essentially the anime that put Cloverworks back on the map. And I guess while I'm at it, I'm also going to include a number 8 spot here, because number 8 spot also came out by Cloverworks Studios, and I feel like it deserves to be here. And that is Sono Biscuit Doll. So once again, Sona Biscuit Doll, or My Dress Up Darling, and Spy Family are both here because not only were these two shows were came out of the gate with something unique, something special, and something to appeal to the mainstream masses, but these two animes honestly brought back Cloverworks' reputation to an all-time high to what it was supposed to be in the first place. And I think I've also said this too, that if My Dress Up Darling and Spy Family didn't come out back in 2022, I think Cloverworks' reputation would have gone down the shitter at that point, and that no one would ever care about them ever again. But like I said, these two shows offer something that's really unique, really interesting. Um, Again, I don't think there's not much I need to be said about Spy Family and Dress Up Darling. These are both amazing shows. Their seasons that to come out prior after this point are really good. Albeit the second season of My Dress Up Darling currently is doing super well. And while Spy Families may have like panned down and waned a little bit, it's still an enjoyable anime that is a must watch for anyone that wants to get into anime nonetheless. And I think that's what I will leave it at. So at the number 8 and 9 spot, you could kind of switch around these two shows, and they pretty much would take those spots. Unfortunately, again, I just can't see myself putting these two anywhere above the top five because of this. Because of like, there are just other shows that I watch, and even one that I just watched recently that turned out to be a lot more stronger in my opinion. So I'll leave it at that. So at our number 7 spot, though, we have Summertime Render. Summertime Render is undoubtedly one of the most underrated, like time traveling ish esque type of animes to come out of recent memory. So to sum up Summertime Render in a nutshell, it's kind of like what would happen if ReZero decided to go in a different direction or an alternate universe. And this show is absolutely incredible. The animation on the show is absolutely gorgeous. The storytelling, the progression, and said characters that envelop this world are absolutely gorgeous and just like all around like interesting to look at. The reasoning as to why there's like a crazy time loop, why there are people trying to go out for our main character, it's really fascinating, and it really plays the whole boundary of like how much further can our main character go just so that he can get to the positive outcome that he wants to go to. And I love that they were able to play this super well. Again, I think Summertime Rendering may not be for everybody, considering that this is like another time traveling esque anime. But I feel like we haven't gotten a unique time traveling anime since then. I mean, outside of like ReZero season 3, for example, but outside of that, Summertime Rendering is still one of the most unique anime experiences I had the pleasure to watch. And the fact that it started really strong, it ended really strong, really showcased like what the show had to offer when it came out that year. All right, but at number 6, we have, yep, this one is a pretty not too surprising one, Chainsaw Man. Now, before we get into Chainsaw Man right off the bat, yes, I can understand that Chainsaw Man should be in my top 5 position. It should be number fucking 1, honestly. Why the fuck is it doing here in the number 6 spot? Well, look, I'm gonna be real with you and just say this. I think that Chainsaw Man, when it first came out, was a bit overrated. Okay, I'm sorry. I love Chainsaw Man. I love the animation, the music, the characters, the story. Everything about Chainsaw Man was amazing. I love it. I'm not, and also the CGI for Chainsaw Man was freaking amazing. Obviously by Mappa Studios. It's just once again there were just shows that for me stood out much more stronger, much more impactful in my opinion. And look, I can agree that Chainsaw Man should be a top 5 best anime of that year, or even like a top 5 best anime of all time at this point for many people. But look, my thing is that with Chainsaw Man the first season, I have my reservations on hold with the current Chainsaw Man movie that's coming up pretty soon, and other sequential seasons coming up. So again, with how big Chainsaw Man was to come out of 2022, the hype was definitely real. I liked it, I loved it, but I wouldn't put it in my top 5 because of that. Because, like I said, there were 5 other shows that to me stood out at the very top. And I'm just gonna get into a little bit of spoilers right now. 2 anime shows that are in my top 5 are shows that I would 100% be comfortable giving a 10 out of 10 on. So stick around on that, would you? So yeah, let's go into our number 5 spot. So let's start with the first show that couldn't make it, that somehow surpassed Chainsaw Man, and that is Bochi the Rock. Yep, Bochi the freaking Rock. Look, Bochi the Rock is an amazing, unique show. As someone who has watched the K-On! Franchise, who has watched a lot of like musical type of animes, this one is really special. I feel like this is a one of a kind, unique anime that, generally speaking, is super overlooked for a lot of people who may not like really like this kind of genre in the first place, or maybe at some point they don't want to go into this anime because there were just much better, superior shows that did what this show did, but much better. And I get that, but Bocchi the Rock is one of the most unique animation experiences ever. The music on the show is absolutely crisp and fire. The storytelling and the character development of Bochi and main characters that surround this world are so goddamn good. They're so goddamn iconic that I just don't see what is there to hate about this show. I feel like in general, if you hate Bocchi the Rock, that's kind of nuts to say the least. But look, Bocchi the Rock, in a nutshell, is what would happen if K-On! The anime shows itself went into a different alternate path in terms of how they would do a character development every now and then. And Bocchi the Rock has like one of the most unique animation switch ups and character expressions that I've never seen in mainstream anime in a really long time. Again, we almost had that done with like Spy Family or Dress Up Darling, but Bocchi the Rock takes the cake for being so out there and unique with what it was trying to throw at us. And that's what I'll say about Bocchi the Rock. Really great show. I think this was deserving to be in the top five spot. All right, but at number four, we have probably one of the most depressing freaking seasons to come out in recent memory, and it's a show that I've always praised about, Main Abyss. More specifically, the second season officially of Main Abyss. So, yeah, Main Abyss, the Going City of the Scorching Sun. This one was goddamn depressing. It was hard to sit through, but god damn it, the anime is so freaking amazing. Again, if you were just like straight up like if you were scarred from life from the Main Abyss third movie with Dawn of the Deep Soul that came out from 2020 prior, which I've also covered in my best animes of 2020, yeah, this one just takes what you saw from that movie and just elevates the fucking depression and anxiety and all the negative shit to fucking 11. This one is absolutely incredible. The story, the lore, going deeper into the abyss, getting to know some of our past characters and the world large, to this amazing but depressing fucking ending that is so iconic to this day in the Main Abyss franchise. I can't think of an ending so iconic, so memorable that just sticks in my head 3 years later than Main Abyss is the Going City. This show is absolutely incredible. It is, like I said, it is hard to sit through because the show really dives into some really sensitive subject matter. But I feel like if I were to give this show another shot and rewatch it all over again, comfortably, I might put this as a 10 out of 10, honestly, realistically. Same with the movie, too. But again, this is a show that's going to be super uncomfortable when you get to knowing the characters at large because there's a ton of new characters you have to get used to, but they play such a pivotal role into what this second season is going for. And it's so fucking depressing, but in a good way. In a good way. So yeah, Main Abyss season 2 would be in this spot, just to be clear. Alright, but now we go into the top 3. And our number 3 spot is a show that I know is getting polarizing as of late, but with the recent movie on the horizon that I'm going to be watching pretty soon, I think there's a good chance that this could probably even surpass what I'm about to talk about. And I think you may know what it is, but on number 3 spot is the third season of Demon Slayer. Again, it won't pop up on here, but I'll pop it up myself. The third season of Demon Slayer, aka the Red Light District arc. This one, if this thing can load, is without doubt the anime that if you were to tell me to give a Demon Slayer season a 10 out of 10 or an anime a 10 out of 10, this would be it. This 100% would be the show that I would give a 10 out of 10 on. Demon Slayer Red Light District arc is my 10 out of 10 anime to come out of that year. And you're probably wondering, okay, why is it in the number 3 spot? Well, contrary to what we have here, there were shows that somehow even blew me away, even as of late, when I went back on this list. But going back to Demon Slayer Red Light District arc, this to me is the perfect balance of action, of comedy, of animation. My God, the animation from Beautiful Table is still a spectacle to look at, a spectacle to behold. This to me is like the perfect balance of how to do 2D and 3D animation in such a beautiful and poetic way. The story is super well balanced. Yes, this is probably the shortest season of the franchise at that time with 11 episodes, but this to me is the go-to for like if you want to watch Demon Slayer, Red Light District arc is the arc you have to check out. So, and I think I touted it too when I first talked about it with my friends, is that if you basically hated the first season of Demon Slayer, if you didn't give two shits about the Mugen Train arc, I think Red Light District arc is your 100% must watch anime to get you convinced to watch the past two seasons of Demon Slayer. So, once again, and I think I even covered this too in a video where I did Demon Slayer tier list. This was super high up there as, for me, the best arc that the franchise has to offer. And like I said, with the movies coming out pretty soon for the United States, I cannot wait to see if this is going to surpass it, if not blow me away nonetheless. But yeah, this is without a doubt a must watch for anyone trying to find an anime that was great from 2022. So let's move on though to our number two spot. At the number two spot is a show that I actually watched recently. I covered it not that long ago, a few weeks ago, and that is, sorry, Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Cyberpunk Edge Runners is 100% not only a show that I've so wished I watched back in 2022, but this show was absolutely freaking amazing. It is iconic. It's no wonder why a lot of people put this in their top 5, top 10 best animes of the year. Because, yeah, I agree. This is a 100% unique anime experience that even though it's 10 episodes long, this to me is like, wow, this blew me away. This is a show that is just one of a kind, unique in its animation art style, unique in the storytelling and the direction that it goes. Again, David's story to this day has gotta be the most depressing fucking story you gotta sit through. Like, if you thought Main Abyss's second season was depressing, no. You have not seen anything but what David had to fucking go through with Cyberpunk Edge Runners. It's so goddamn heartfelt, but also tragic at the very end. And it makes me even skeptical as to how they're going to do super well and like top off the second season of Cyberpunk Edge Runners, because like I said, the music on the show fire, the animation from Studio Trigger absolutely fire, the combat, the action, the story at large is fucking fire. This show, like, if you give me like another year or so of me rewatching this, I might be comfortable giving this like another 10 out of 10, honestly. Right now, this is like a solid like 8 or a 9 out of 10, if I remember correctly from when I reviewed it. But this is a 100% must watch anime. But as anything, I cannot put this on the number one spot. I can't even put my Demon Slayer Red Light District art at the number one spot. Because at the number one spot is a show that I've been really been glued to for 2019 to be exact, and I've been praising every single season of the show, kind of similar to how it is with the Gintama franchise. And honestly, the more I thought about it, the more I look back at everything that I've had pieced here, I think that the number one spot is 100% deserved. And it's related to an arc to come out. And that's Kaguya-sama Love is War Season 3, or more specifically, Kaguya-sama Love is War Ultra Romantic. This season of Kaguya-sama is once again a show that if you were to tell me what I would give a 10 out of 10 anime on, it is this one. This is another show that I would 100% be comfortable giving a 10 out of 10 on. Not only is the show really an amalgamation of everything that's happened from the past two seasons of Kaguya-sama, but simultaneously, this is like the most emotional, heartwarming, and gripping show to come out of the franchise thus far. And the movie to come out after the third season really like hammers in home how strong and a near masterpiece this anime is. As I've mentioned many times, I think Kaguya-sama Love is War is like a masterpiece, a masterclass of slice of life comedic anime. The show itself may not have like the most spectacle and amazing animation like Red Light District arc or like Chainsaw Man or other mainstream shows, right? But Kaguya-sama Levels 1 Ultra Romantic is like the go-to now of like how to balance comedy, but simultaneously making sure that the romantic romance slice of life stuff is still intact and really keeps you engaged, really keeps you hooked all the way, and really keeps you guessing to the very end. Because, like I said, this third season is done so goddamn well that it really just overshadows a lot of the other slice of life animes come out of recent memory. Like honestly, to this day, Kaguya Sama Levels War Ultra Romantic has gotta be one of the best slice of life comedy animes come out of recent memory. And the ending, my god, the fucking ending of this third season is still iconic. It is now like certified anime top five best slice of life moments ever. That I don't even want to spoil because I think it's already been spoiled out of the wazoo to fucking begin with. But with that being said, yeah, here we go. Seep it, weep it, rip it. This is my top 10 best animes of 2022 that has to offer. Again, we have a few that are not exactly on the posters here, as you see, but this is my top 10 nonetheless. So, yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next video, and the next list will be about 2023 to be exact, but that's going to be a while. So, until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Later.